everybody. Welcome to another Freethought in Florida. Freethought in Florida is a production of the Atheist community of Polk County, a 501c3 nonprofit organization operating here in Polk County, Florida. Today, we're going to talk about a program called Street Warriors of Central Florida. This is another 501c3 organization that we've gotten involved with recently to do some great stuff out in the community. So I'm joined today with Stephen Blansfield, who's the Director of Marketing for Street Warriors of Central Florida, and Alec Kosmensky, who is a volunteer coordinator with the Atheist community of Polk County. So let me just welcome you both. I've got Stephen on screen now.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
Alec, thank you for joining us.
Yeah, I'm glad to be here as well.
All right, cool. So obviously we'll talk about, we're in the middle of coronavirus pandemic lockdown. Everybody's, holed up at home, social distancing. It's March 27th, 2020. And so I want to loop back to that in a minute. But first, Stephen, let's start with you. Why don't you just share a little bit of your story, sort of talk about how Street Warriors got started, and then we can kind of go from there.
Well, I had actually found a church out of Winter Haven after breaking up with my then partner that I had, and I was just very discouraged. I fall victim to depression fairly easily, so I have to constantly, I feel like I'm constantly walking a step ahead just to not give in to that. So this church actually had started a group which they had called 642, which I believe was based off of a scripture of some kind. It usually was. We had a falling out with the church, and so we kind of just branched out on our own, and we changed the name to Street Warriors. And my current partner that I have now joined the board and helped us to get incorporated. And believe it or not, we as gay men, we were leading worship in this Free Will Baptist Church of all places, and they actually paid for our 501c3.
Great. Even
though there was differences because they just didn't like the fact that we were gay. They just couldn't, they knew we needed to be able to do this. They knew we needed to do that, and that it was important that we were able to do that because it was such a viable thing. And then once Robert took on the role as executive director and I took on the role as marketing director, we just took off. We began to get help from outside sources like Pope Pride a couple years ago gave us all the shirts that didn't sell. So we were able to give away t-shirts for like months.
Oh, that's great.
And then Wells Fargo does sock drives for us. So it's just a matter of coming together and doing what needs to be done for these people. If we wait on the government to do it, it won't ever get done.
You're absolutely right.
So that's just our philosophy. We are doers. That's just what we do. It's not our mission to lead people to salvation or anything like that. I mean, we do use scripture in our basis because most people will identify with that. Mm-hmm. I love the fact that Alec had came out because they were just phenomenal with those kids at Noah's Landing, which is another organization along with Visti. I mean, we have several partnerships in the community. So, and we're also registered with the Polk County board, so we can sign off on like people that need to do community service.
Oh, great! Yes, like yeah. Well, and so now that you're organized and founded as a proper 501c3, that opens the doorway to various grants and other things that you can get from other sources in the community too, right? And nationally, I would assume.
It does. And what we have found, we have applied for several grants, but most of the grants that the government is giving away anyway is usually given to people that are working to get people housed.
Right.
Which is not what we do. I mean, we have helped. When we actually used to go out in the camps, we had a woman with stage 4 cancer living in a tent. And couldn't get medications. I mean, she was miserable, and she was in so much pain, you know. So a bunch of the ladies from the group and myself, we all just coordinated with her daughter. She ended up passing away, but she did it in a clean bed in her own home and not in the woods. So
Amazing.
the reward,
so good.
It's hard. It's hard for me to even talk about it sometimes because the losses have been so great. You get attached to people and then you lose them.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the other things are the things that we've learned along the way. Getting to know the people has been crucial. I mean, homeless people that I have never even seen before will know who I am just from the shirts we wear.
Yeah.
So we've got quite a reputation amongst the homeless community as well.
Great. So Alec, let's bring you in a bit more here. So this was something that you very quickly, sort of right off the bat, you were very passionate about being involved in some sort of community engagement that would help people who are experiencing homelessness. So, you know, what does it mean for you? What was it that drew you to this challenge, this mission, and being able to help in and do some good in the community like this?
For me, mainly, it's a lot like Stephen was saying about dealing with depression and trying to stay a step ahead. And I find that this sort of thing is really rewarding and gives you sort of a break from your own thoughts. But I'm going to get on my soapbox here for just a second. We live in a super affluent society. We're very, very wealthy as a whole, and we leave a lot of people behind. And so this just kind of my pet thing, my number one charity, my number one thing that I want to be a benefactor to is homeless outreach. And we're kind of talking about this before the show, but it was valuable, and I think we should bring it up again. Mm-hmm. I was thinking about doing something like this on behalf of the atheist community at a local church that I knew was fairly moderate. I won't name any names, but I was basically told not to bring it up and make too much of a fuss about it because it wouldn't be good for business if the atheist community was directly involved with their soup kitchen. So I've run into a lot of issues. I was really glad to find Street Warriors, and was actually on Keith's recommendation through the ACPC. But I'm so glad they exist, and that they welcomed us with open arms.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's come back to that in just a moment. Stephen, talk a little bit about just the nuts and bolts of what your organization does. How many folks that you serve and how often, and what does that typical day look like for you guys?
A typical day starts out on Saturday morning. Robert and I are up early. We will put out 40 breakfasts. Breakfast contains homemade biscuits and gravy, and usually we'll use cereal bars, or we'll make Rice Krispie treats, or we have a lady on our board of directors. She is a teacher, and she's off right now, so she's baking like crazy. So we can I have a deep freezer, so bake all you want to. I will freeze it. She made applesauce cake. So we'll serve about 40 breakfasts, and then we go and meet over at Noah's Landing, which is a home for developmentally disabled adults. And Robert is very passionate about that because he, in fact, had a brother who was developmentally disabled like that. So that's very special to him, both of us actually. And so after we're done there, we will go out and we hit Munn Park in Lakeland, and then we will go to the library here in Lake Morton, which is the neighborhood that we currently live in. And I believe charity really needs to start right where you're at, right in your own neighborhood. We live in a very desirable neighborhood in Lakeland that is loaded with homeless people, and most of the people that live in this area kind of turn a blind eye to it, or they turn their nose up to it. I even had a woman call me out telling me she didn't appreciate us out there feeding the bums in the neighborhood.
Oh my God.
Wow.
And she had "Honk If You Love Jesus" bumper stickers on her car, by the way, which really left me with serious issues as well, because I'm not a fan of people who say one thing and do another.
They're more concerned with saving your soul than they are with feeding you.
Right. And the food is the doorway to do that.
Yeah. That's
what we have learned over the last 7 years, that the food is just the doorway. We are known for our compassion, and to me, that's what sets us apart from any other organization. And I almost said ministry. We are not a ministry. We are a 501c3 non-for-profit. But people try to label us as a ministry, and I really don't like that, because let's face it, Christianity has a bad rap. Well, and so therefore we try to stand away from that.
And I think that's something
that why we embraced you guys.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's something this partnership will really work to serve, is when someone thinks, typically when a person thinks about who's doing the charity work, they often assume it's the church. And a lot of that comes from a place of history where, in colonial life, the house of worship was the town center. That was the community center. That's where everyone gathered for everything, and all of the community's needs were met. And our society has changed a lot since then, but people still sort of see the role of religion in that way. And one of the early things that we wanted to do as an organization here was to say, like, no, but these are things that we care about too. And how do we get involved and make a difference and change the perception of atheists? Like you're talking about, there is a segment of Christianity that sort of has a bad rap, and it's because they're not moving along as quickly as society is in many cases, and some churches have gotten on board the we're okay with gay people train, and the ones that are not are going to get left in the dust. And so, we're sort of seeing an evolution, if you will. I know that's a bad word in religion, but there are preconceptions that come along with certain different groups, and the atheist community, we have certainly seen our share of when we show up, people look at us and go, well, why are you here? Or, what do you care about this problem?
First of all, I think everybody should care about this problem. And back to what you were saying about people look at the church as doing this or whatever, that's all well and good. But if you basically want to get to the reality of it, if churches were doing what they were supposed to do, which is what we do on a weekly basis and sometimes on a daily basis, if the churches all together would do that, we could eliminate the need for Medicaid, we could eradicate the need for food stamps, and it could take at least $1 trillion off of our deficit alone if the churches would do their jobs. But evangelicals get sick of hearing that, because why is it our responsibility? And then you're back into doctrine.
Right.
Because you're tax exempt. That's why it's your responsibility.
Religion is catch-22. It started out to be a good thing, and I'm not saying it isn't a good thing, but it's not doing what it was supposed to do.
Sure.
Actually, if you ask me, churches that claim to be so much like Christ are anything but that.
Yeah. They
are more anti-Christ. Again, when this opportunity came up, I took it as a direct challenge because I felt like we needed to do more to reach out. I will stand behind anybody who has the heart to do something for somebody else other than themselves. I will stand behind that no matter who they are.
Exactly.
You're here.
And, so I think that's so one of the goals of the atheist community, when we sat down and wrote up our vision and mission statement, one of the things that we said was to improve the perception generally of atheists out in the public, of what people think of atheists. And so it's things like this. It's things like the roadway cleanup that we do very, very frequently. We have I would say a big long list of programs that I think we would love to launch and see, grow and be a thing and come to fruition. Things that we're working on we're 1 year old. Like our organization just turned a year old. So the fact that we have done...
Oh, so you guys are fairly new. I thought you were longer than that.
Nope. So the fact that we have done just this much in such a short amount of time, I'm so proud of the people who have come together around us, this group that's come together to just get shit done. And I love it. I think that's what we wanted to do. That's what it's all about.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
You should really consider setting up at Polk Pride in the Park. You can get so many people on board.
We were there this past year. Yeah, we had a tent set up this past year. I love Polk Pride in the Park.
Our early board just refused to even listen to me on that aspect. And then so after they got kind of weaned out, I got proactive and I said, we're going to do this. And I don't care if Street Warriors, I paid for it out of my own pocket. Yep. Off my own credit card. We landed Wells Fargo. We landed Visti. We got 2 volunteers who happened to be a straight couple. They weren't even a gay couple. They are just absolutely amazing. So yeah, it was a good thing. It was a good thing. So
let me ask you a couple of questions just about serving this segment of the population in general. I can't remember if I have heard this specific messaging here locally, or if it was something from back home in Illinois. But there's this prevalent sort of notion out there that from law enforcement that you get, hey, don't help these people. There are programs, there are services. They can go to this shelter, they can go to this kitchen, and you shouldn't be out there. If you find somebody panhandling, don't give them any money, don't give them some food, don't give them some, gloves and socks or whatever. Yep. And I think that's a prevalent message that's out there. I don't know where, you probably know better, where our law enforcement partners sort of stand on these issues. Is that messaging that you've heard around here?
We have worked with both Lakeland Police Department, or we have dealt with, I shouldn't say worked with. Lakeland gives us no problems at all. As a matter of fact, where I go to church, the one who runs our fine arts or our music program is also chaplain to the Lakeland Police Department. So we don't get any crap out of Lakeland. I love the Lakeland Police Department. Grady Judd's guys,
yeah.
Don't even get me started. But they're not a joy to work with. But the Lakeland people, I've even offered the Lakeland police officers that might be down at the park, I've offered them lunch. I didn't know if it offended them or not, but then it really does. I really don't care if I offend people, so I'm really bad. But so I do have to say, though, the thing that really, really got me interested in this was actually after I got to talking to Alex, or to Alec. I was very moved by the conversation we had. We talked forever on the phone. I think I did with you too.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
But yeah, and I'm like, there's more here than what meets the eye. So
yes.
But back to the cops. I got sidetracked. Sorry, I'm like a dog chasing a squirrel. I have not really seen that stigma. I would agree with never giving them money because you don't know what you're enabling.
Right. Right.
Chances are they're not going to use the money to eat or drink, go buy beer or do drugs with it. We do see a lot of that. The homeless people don't really do anything to help their own cause, if you know what I mean. But I will feed them. I will give them a cereal bar. Sometimes I'll feel moved to give somebody money. That's very rare because I don't really carry cash. So, again, I think it's just up to discretion. If you feel so moved to do that, I'm a firm believer in trust your instinct. But the police around downtown don't like people to help because it encourages them to stay in the park, which they're trying to clean up. First, it was, let's clean it up. There used to be bathrooms down at Munn Park. Apparently, I didn't know that,
really?
But they did away with those because of the gays.
So hold on. You're telling me they got rid of the bathrooms in Munn Park before they got rid of the statue?
Yes.
Sorry, too soon? That's crazy.
No, I agree, but it's just the ignorance of the American people floor me sometimes because the American people do not think for themselves for the most part.
Yep.
And people like certain political leaders prey on people who are uneducated or not willing to be educated. And that's why we're in the mess we're in.
Well, and I think, so, something you mentioned earlier about the tenets of belief, the least of these, right? So when you think about people who need help, it's insane to me that that we're so damn selfish in this country and in society in general, sort of broadly. Yeah. But this just me. I worked hard for my money, and so I should get to keep my money, and screw that guy. He can work 3 jobs and pull his bootstraps up, and come on. So we often have to...
And a lot of that comes from the church.
Yeah.
And that's a lot of the motivation behind it.
It really floors me. I mean, I grew up in an evangelical church, but of course, that was a long time ago. So, but you're right. The evolution of things has just changed people. Church and religion, just like politics, is now corrupt by money and greed.
Yep.
Unfortunately.
Yep. I don't know how many conversations I've had around the dinner table with family and friends who are just completely of the opinion that everyone's homeless because they're lazy, and they just want to sit around and trade stories about how they didn't give money to this person, or they gave food to this person and he threw it away because he was really looking for booze money. And it's like they sit around patting themselves on the back for what they haven't done to help anybody. And it really annoys the crap out of me. And that's part of the reason why why I'm so passionate about homeless outreach. From what I understand, the number one cause of homelessness in this country is an overwhelming lack of affordable housing. Now, granted, there's going to be some people out there who are just lazy. Some people are drug addicts. Some people are, have PTSD because they're soldiers. Some people are, avoiding domestic, a lot of women and children avoiding domestic violence. There's a lot of reasons to be homeless, and laziness is one pretty far down on the list, in my opinion. But it takes a little bit of understanding to get to that point. You have to do a little bit of research to get there, and it's too easy to sit around and listen to Uncle Joe talk about the homeless person he spat on, earlier today.
Yep.
Than it is to actually go out and do some research and find out what the causes are. And the ignorance of my fellow Americans really inspired me.
I would say another thing that we're sort of finding out in this coronavirus world right now is that all of our situations are far more fragile than anyone ever wanted to admit to or believe.
Oh.
And, I have often said we are fairly well off. However, I am one disaster away from ruin. Honestly,
sure.
If I lost my job tomorrow, and I was in a real bad rear end collision a year and a half ago, and that could have spelled the end of a lot of things. And there's no nest egg, there's no safety net, we don't have money saved up because there's no money to save up. I have 2 kids, we have mouths to feed. I need that money to be fluid right now. And so I think a lot of people are finding, I hope that more eyes are opening right now to the truth that they are more in a fragile position right now than they thought they were. I hope people are seeing it, at least.
Yeah. Statistically, the average American is maybe 1 to 2 paychecks away from the very people that I go out and serve.
Yeah.
Robert and I are fortunate. Robert is a money guy. Robert is really good with finances, and I had to literally make him stop listening to the news about the stock market because he's worried about his 401k, or it'll come back.
Yep.
I just, again, part of that probably goes back to my evangelical roots. I've always just been like that all things will eventually work the way they're supposed to. Not even a Christian principle, by the way. That's just a given. If you do good things come to you. If you do bad things, well, not only are you an asshole, but bad things are going to come back to you. So it's just.
And if the whole economy tanks, then nobody's money will be worth anything. So who cares?
Yeah.
Our money's worth nothing now. What good is money if you're not using it to help somebody else? My catchphrase with Street Warriors has become, the best way to help yourself is to help someone else.
Yes.
That's my catchphrase.
I love that.
I don't even know where that came from, but it was it's inspired a lot of people. It just truly has, and I'm really glad. My numbers are down too because I go live almost every Saturday that I'm out. Mm-hmm. But my numbers are down too. So I think people just have Corona on the brain. So we did cancel. We are not going to be feeding until this is over. We're having trouble getting supplies. We're having trouble. And it breaks my heart. I cried for 4 hours. I just cried gut-wrenching tears because I was so tore up by it. But
I believe it. And that was actually my next question was, how is this impacting your operation, because even the we got one good Saturday in that we were able to get a couple people out there to help out, and then this thing struck, and suddenly we're all under house arrest. But we even thought before that one, the board got together in a group chat and we talked to Alec, and my God, what do we do? Because first of all, we know that people are asymptomatic, running around passing this stuff around, and so I would feel like absolute garbage if I went into a community of people experiencing homelessness and introduced this. If I were the one to be the carrier to bring this into their community, I would feel like absolute garbage. But also, where are they going? Where are they getting the services that they need right now in the midst of all of this? And they need us now more than ever, I think, right? Is Absolutely. That how is this?
I have to say, you would be really surprised at how awesome these people are, at how crafty and cunning, and the intelligence level out of some of them it's just incredible. And let me tell you, you're right. We are a selfish community. Early on, I think it was when we first started doing the Lakeland route, because we started out in Winter Haven. Mm-hmm. We had some people that were interested in supplying them food so they could do Winter Haven. So if that's something you'd like to do, Alec, we could talk about that.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So I don't have time to do Winter Haven. I feel bad because I don't. Believe me, if I could make money doing this, we'd be rich. But it's not about the money. No. It's about taking what we're getting and giving it to somebody else.
Yep.
Yeah.
Again, it's all boiling down to it's just doing what's right. Doing what's right. I will always do what's right as much as I can. I'm not perfect. None of us are, but it's not that difficult. Let me tell you, I caused quite a ruckus to the chop shop down in Lakeland. Called for a citywide boycott because they refused to sell a woman a burger because she was going to give it to a homeless guy. Oh, God. I thought, how crappy is that? What business is it of yours what I'm going to do with this food that I just paid for, by the way, that I'm going to pay $11 for? What's it to you what I'm going to do with it?
That's
absurd. I could go flush it down the toilet. You made your sale. I don't get that.
Yeah,
it's the mentality of the American people.
Yeah,
that's it. Some of them, the ones who are vocal, unfortunately.
My goal is to take a vacation and get out to California and go and feed on Skid Row. Oh. Robert thinks I'm nuts for that because he's like, that is going to emotionally overwhelm you. I'm like, It probably will, but it's probably a necessary thing. What I would gain from that would be phenomenal.
Sure.
It would probably make me an emotional wreck, no doubt. But what I could learn from that, and it's so always about learning. I wish I could find somebody to partner with me on Monday mornings and go with me because they're willing to share their stories live on Facebook with me.
Oh, wow.
And that would go back to what you were talking about earlier, Alec, about people thinking that they're just lazy. I think it's important to get their stories out there.
Sure. Yeah, it's a great idea.
Yeah, it sounds to me like we need to do a video series or a podcast or something.
I'd like to do a documentary.
Yeah.
Pieces of the homeless sort of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would really love to do a documentary. And we had a friend of ours that's a professional photographer. She gave us like a $400 package for $100. She came out. I have yet to release all those pictures. She took hundreds, and well, we felt like it was important to honor her as a person, that's her livelihood. Yep. And her time was valuable to us. And we met her because her son came out to serve community service. And she loved what we did, and she brought her 2-year-old. And I don't know if either one of you have ever been to our website, but I think one of the pictures up there is of a little boy handing a homeless guy a bottle of water.
Yes.
That was her son that was doing that. He's 2 years old. Oh. And people have said that picture makes them cry. Well, it did me too when I seen it. Sure. I mean, it was just so... She's got a good eye at capturing the raw emotion in people. And that's an incredible picture, by the way. That is...
I'll check that out.
One of my favorites. Well, I look forward to doing more with you guys because...
same here.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'd love to
expand,
do something in Winter Haven. I was going to pick your brain about that, just about if you'd ever run into any issues with Winter Haven PD. I know you said you did some outreach in Winter Haven in the past, or
we did not really experience that early on either, but Robert jokes about it all the time. The reason we don't get harassed by the police is because of the way we feed the people. It's all about getting everything put in them bags so you can hand and go. It's not like we're setting up a table and dipping food. I ain't got time to pay the city for a permit to do what's right.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't. I'm telling you, one of these days it's going to force my hand. I'm going to end up in jail because I'll refuse to stop, and I'm going to end up in jail. But that's okay. I've got some nice Methodist women that are ready to stand behind me and bail me out of jail so I can go do it again.
I've always wanted to get arrested for a noble cause, so I'll be there with you.
Me too. I have a friend at work that calls me a modern day Robin Hood. I'm like, not quite. I'm not stealing anything, but except people's, I don't know. People are jealous. People really hate me sometimes because I'm so quick to just say what's on my mind. And if it offends them, I'm not going to say I'm sorry if it offends you. Just the fact that you're being that ignorant offends me. So I try not to. I wish I could learn to just not let them bait me. But my mother had a great saying: "You're going to let that motorboat mouth override your rowboat ass." And that's true. I do, but that's okay. That's part of my charm.
Awesome. So let's do this. Let's wrap here on that. But I just wanted to chime in and sort of maybe echo the sentiment of, yes, even from the beginning, there's always been a little thought in the back of our minds of, how can we expand this? Because we know that there are people experiencing homelessness in the other communities here in Polk County, and Polk County is like, what, twice the size of Rhode Island or some shit. So like, there's more that we can do for sure. And as this thing grows, if we can work together to serve even more people, I think that's the path we need to take. And then just sort of to reset and remind the point about, believers and non-believers coming to work together for the common good in an instance like this. Homelessness knows no bounds. It doesn't demographically discriminate, right? So we know that there are people who experience homelessness who are believers and non-believers that experience homelessness too. And so I think it's great that we can put that show of unity together and go out there together and, put our differences aside to do what's right. And I think that's just great. And I thank you both for your passion and commitment to that. So thank you.
Hey, united we stand. We stand united. That's the way it is.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Glad you guys are here and willing to work with us. It's been a pleasure, and I look forward to many more Saturdays with you.
Yes, I'm hoping we won't stay closed down too long. I'm thinking a couple weeks. Hopefully it'll just kind of pass.
Cool. Yeah. Well, let's plan to do a quick check-in then again when we get ready to open back up and ramp back up, and once the big coronavirus scare is kind of past us and we're getting back to normal. Let's plan to get back together and just do a quick catch up and talk about where things are and get people motivated to come out and help.
Absolutely, and I hope you bring more people with you next time.
You bet. There will be more. Awesome. Well, thank you both so much for joining me today. Stephen Blansfield with Street Warriors and Alec Kosmensky with the Atheist Community of Polk County. I'm going to wind us up here, and then I'm going to try to do some of these Freethought in Florida episodes while we have the shutdown. My work schedule has been rearranged just a little bit, so I have a little bit more free time at home to do these sorts of chats and interviews and talk to people. And word has it that just about everybody else has a little bit more free time on their hands right now, too, unless you work in the medical profession or a grocery store or that sort of thing. And bless those people who are on the front lines taking care of the people who need it and getting yelled at the grocery stores every day. That's tough work right there. And the fast food joints. So anyway, I'm going to try to do some more of these for the atheist community of Polk County. Obviously, we've canceled all of our events that had been calendared, but we are doing, like everyone else, we're doing some online meetings with Zoom. So if you want to join one of those, look for us on Facebook. There's a private Facebook group, the Atheist Community of Polk County. We're posting the link up in there, and we're going to try to schedule those more often too, so that we can still get together in this time of social distancing and have that community engagement. So that's going to do it for this episode. And I'll be back soon with maybe some more interesting guests and some more great things to talk about. But for now, that's it from the atheist community of Polk County and Freethought in Florida. We'll see you next time.